Hi, and welcome back to 5-Minute MuckBusters. This is episode 10, and we're here to talk about how writing can help us make it through the thick sludge of life. And today we're talking about my favorite topic, fiction. Fiction has been near and dear to me since I was a young reader, and I used to escape to distant lands with the Bobbsey twins. But it wasn't until I began to write fiction that I really understood how cathartic it can be. And that's why I wanted to talk about it with you today, because we're deep into COVID-19, all unsure of not only what our next week or month is going to look like, but our next year or two. So sometimes we need to escape, and that's what we're going to talk about today. In fact, best-selling author Wally Lamb has talked recently about that very thing, about the idea of escaping from the pandemic through writing fiction. But whether we're dealing with a pandemic or other problems in life, writing fiction can help us deal. Award-winning author Jess Lowry said that although it was like digging out of prison with a spoon, writing fiction helped her deal with her husband's suicide. We might write realistic stories, we might write science fiction fantasy, but regardless, spending time with our imaginary friends and foes allows our subconscious self the time and space to explore, to roam, to gain new perspective, to ask what if, to heal, and it can be fun. And who doesn't need a little extra fun nowadays? In my short story From Here to Kafashate, I explored the sour relationship between my mom and my aunt. And through the writing of fiction, it became a perspective changer for me. Mom was deeply hurt by the turns the relationship took over 7 decades. And when my aunt announced that she didn't want anything to do with anyone in the family, I was deeply hurt too. It wasn't until I started writing about them, though, that a little light bulb went on in my head. I wrote about Miriam and Penelope, my fictional characters, who bicker about a lot of things. And then Penelope, at the age of 90, announces to her sister that she's about to move far, far away. Miriam is shattered. She's already lost her husband and her daughter and her home. The idea of losing her sister makes her nearly crazy. Here's what I wrote. Miriam didn't want to lose her sister now, too. But then again, maybe she'd never had her. You've probably heard authors say that they don't write the stories, that the stories write themselves, or that the characters write the stories. And that's often been the case for me, too. When Miriam had that thought, I began to wonder if maybe we hadn't lost Aunt Jo, if maybe we'd never had her love in the first place. And although this idea wasn't exactly a balm for a broken heart, it allowed me to let go and move on. One of the other magical features about writing fiction is that it can give you a veil of privacy. It's hard to write with honesty in your journal or wherever when you're worried that someone's going to be looking over your shoulder and reading your words. One woman who came to a writing workshop I offered for domestic violence survivors was worried that her abusive husband would find what she wrote and the repercussions wouldn't be good. And she discovered that she could still find a sense of escape and empowerment by writing about fictional forest-dwelling animals who had nothing to do with her predicament, her lot in life. So let's practice. Have you ever wished you could have a do-over? Well, now's your chance. Think about a choice you've made, or maybe a choice that someone else has made for you that has impacted you in a way you didn't appreciate. By the way, you don't have to write a novel. Writing fiction can be just a few short paragraphs, too, and that's what we're going to do today. So begin with just one paragraph, and just within that 1 or 2 sentences that just discusses the who, what, when, where, very briefly. Then spend the next 2 or 3 or 4 paragraphs delving into the story using a combination of facts and fiction. Just let the story be your guide. Let it write itself. In Miriam's story, her sister's condescending tone and perpetual jealousy was based on the reality as I saw it, but the rest of the story had a lot of fictional elements too. Now comes the ending. Again, let it flow. Don't worry about whether your problems are resolved, or whether relationships were mended, or maybe whether you rode off into the sunset, leaving the situation open-ended. The point is to write, and then when you're done, notice where the story took you, and notice how you feel about that new outcome, and also how you feel after having spent a few minutes writing. Thanks for watching this episode. Next time we'll get a little new agey and talk about brief snippets of life to write about, those being affirmations, intentions, and credos, short, sweet, and powerful. And until then, if you have time, check out Jess Lowry's TED Talk. She called it Use Fiction to Rewrite Your Life. And in it, she says a lot of the same things I say about how writing is so good for you. Until then, be well and keep on writing.
For more about wellness writing, order my book from your favorite indie bookstore or from Amazon. Bye now.